What's up, everybody? Xander Schauffele won the major tournament this weekend, but all anybody's talking about is Scottie Scheffler and his arrest. So on today's video, we're going to break down what Scottie Scheffler said in his presser, what his lawyer said that give us indications about how they're going to fight this case, and eyewitness testimony that has just come out tonight in a bunch of articles quoting people that were there, that saw what happened, that gives us a pretty good indication into whether or not we think that these charges will eventually be dropped or tried against Scottie Scheffler, the #1 golfer in the world. All right, so we have an article we're going to bring up here, and we are going to read from this article. But first, I wanted to summarize a couple things. I guess I can go back to full screen here while I give this quick summary. So Scottie Scheffler was interviewed after his round. He shot a couple under after a 45-minute warm-up session after literally being released from the slammer. Said he had to do his stretches in the beginning of his routine in jail, and then he was released on his own recognizance, meaning no bond, no bail. Why? His lawyer said because he wasn't a threat to the community. He had no priors. He wasn't a threat to run. Obviously, he's going to show up to court if he needs to. So there was no reason to hold him or give him a bail or a bond, to make him bond out, pay money to get out of jail, to make sure he shows up, to make sure he doesn't flee. But guess what? Here's the problem. Scottie Scheffler was arrested for a violent felony against a police officer. You don't get released on your own recognizance if anybody thinks that that is a crime that you actually committed. You would sit in jail. You would definitely have some kind of cash bond. You would definitely be considered a danger to the community if you're willing to assault a police officer. So why? Why did you just get released? Scottie Scheffler gave us some insights into what the jail or prison experience was like for him. And he said all the officers were so nice. He's so happy to have a strong law enforcement agency around there. He basically supports police officers and law enforcement. And they asked if he wanted the full experience. And he's like, I don't know what that means. And they said, do you want a sandwich? He's like, sure, I'll take a sandwich. So they gave him a sandwich. And everybody was so nice to him, and he eventually gets released. Then he says something that's very important, that this was all a misunderstanding. He was driving where he was directed to drive. More on that later. What does his lawyer say? His lawyer says, ain't no crime committed here. We're not settling for anything. We're going to fight this case if we need to. He did not commit a crime. He did not do anything wrong. This was based on a misunderstanding. And once again, he was doing what he was instructed to do, as many other vehicles did as well. So let's get to this article where we can learn more about eyewitnesses revealing new details about the arrest. 5:30 a.m., bleak and drizzly Friday morning in Kentucky, Scottie Scheffler gets arrested. To circumvent the snarl, the ESPN runner has diverted SUVs onto less cluttered back roads and soon came upon a police officer patrolling an intersection about a third of a mile from the club entrance. When the ESPN crew identified themselves and showed their parking credential, the officer let them through. As they neared the entrance, though, they were held up again, this time by a bus just in front of the gate. As they waited for the bus to clear, a Lexus SUV demarked as a PGA Championship courtesy vehicle pulled up in the westbound lane next to them. And that, Wischusen told me in an iPhone interview Saturday evening, was when the confrontation began. So Wischusen is one of these new eyewitnesses. I think there was another one. Yeah, Dave Fleming and Bob Wischusen, along with Jeff Darlington, who we've already heard from. He's the one with the video. He's the one that made it seem like Scottie Scheffler didn't do much wrong. The confrontation, which by now you've undoubtedly read, heard, and or memed about, involved the world's top-ranked male golfer, Scottie Scheffler, and a detective with the Louisville Metro Police Department named Brian Gillis. In short, after Scheffler pulled into the westbound lane, Gillis, who was directing traffic, stopped Scheffler and gave him instructions. But according to Gillis, Scheffler refused to comply and accelerated forward, dragging him to the ground. In a statement Friday, Scheffler said that he had been proceeding as directed, and the incident resulted from a big misunderstanding of what I thought I was being asked to do. He was arrested, taken to the Department of Corrections, where he was charged with 3 driving-related misdemeanors and a second-degree assault of a police officer, which is a felony. The bombshell arrest news was broken by Darlington, who witnessed the event. He tweeted, world number one golfer, Scottie Scheffler. Okay, we already read all that. 45 minutes later, Darlington tweeted a video. He's going to jail, an officer said. We watched that video here. We already watched that. Darlington, though, wasn't the only eyewitness. His 4 commuting mates also had been at the scene, watching on from the interior of the SUV. On Saturday, Wischusen, who has not yet publicly shared his version of what led to the arrest, spoke with golf.com about what he saw and heard. His account corroborates Darlington's, but Wischusen also provided some new details. Let's get into them. As Scheffler pulled up to the left of the ESPN vehicle, Wischusen said he and his ESPN colleagues could not see who was at the wheel. Moments later, a police officer kind of jumped in front of them, and they later learned the Lexus was driven by Scheffler. He was pretty, enthusiastic, let's say, Wischusen said of Officer Gillis. Tell me, is that a positive or a negative way to describe a police officer in this situation? Wischusen said Gillis beamed his flashlight up and down Scheffler's car and yelled at him with words to the effect, whoa, 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 who are you? Where are you going? Get back in line. You're not allowed to come through here. Wischusen said he couldn't hear any of what Scheffler said to Gillis, but Gillis was scolding Scheffler for passing the ESPN vehicle on the left. Wischusen said because the officer and his colleagues were in yellow reflective jackets, it was unclear to him and his colleagues whether they were police officer or tournament security. That makes a difference as well, especially for assaulting a police officer. After Scheffler and the officer's interaction, Wischusen said Scheffler began to pull away. As Darlington described it, at this point, Gillis attached himself to the car. As Gillis, whose body camera was not activated during the incident, described it, he was dragged on the ground by Scheffler's car, which led to pain, swelling, and abrasions on his left wrist and knee, and damaging his pants beyond repair. So these are from the police report, and that's what makes it assault with bodily injury and criminal mischief with damage to property. Here's how Wischusen recalls the moment. When Scheffler drove past him, the cop got very angry, pursuing the car. My impression was he was kind of running alongside the car, chasing the car. And maybe he tripped and fell. I mean, there was kind of an outcropping or a median, by the front gate. And keep in mind, it was raining. It was 6 o'clock in the morning and it was dark. So I don't know if that is kind of belittling his own testimony or if he's saying, oh no, this cop was basically just running and tripped and fell over his own 2 feet. Asked about Darlington's characterizations of the officer attaching himself to the car, Wischusen said, I could see him stumble, but I did not have a very clear view of exactly how you want to categorize his contact with the car. Wischusen said Scheffler was moving at a relatively slow speed, the speed that you would drive a car if you were pulling up to the front gate of a place, he said. And before pulling over, he had driven approximately the 10 or so yards that Darlington had estimated. When Scheffler stopped the car, Wischusen said Gillis was visibly upset. Before we get there, so he was driving slowly as if you were entering a gate, which again, are you really going to drag a cop and injure him? Or could the cop just let go of the car if the cop is the one that attached himself to the car? It's not as if anybody is saying Scottie Scheffler hit and ran over a cop. He runs up to the driver's side and with the butt of his flashlight starts screaming, get out of the car, banging on the window, shut off the engine, get out of the car. I'm a police officer. The driver peacefully exited the car. Now, you can see these people are probably on Scottie's side, but still, these are eyewitnesses that would testify at trial. Wischusen said at which point the officer put him up against the car, put his hands in handcuffs. That was when we realized, all the way up until there, we're like, oh my God, whoever is in the car, there's going to be an arrest of some sort. And then it was like, oh my God, it's Scottie Scheffler. Recognizing the gravity and magnitude of the moment, Darlington immediately switched into reporter mode and exited the SUV to document what was happening. I'm not an investigative reporter, right? Wischusen said, I thought the exact right thing to do is just stay in the car, let Jeff go out and ask the questions, and let the situation play out, and certainly not insert ourselves or all of a sudden try to, have a role to play. The mood in the black SUV as the passengers watched this unfathomable scene playing out in front of them, shock, Wischusen said. Exactly what you would imagine. He said, the number one player in the world just got arrested trying to get into the gate at a golf course. I mean, what just happened? Did we really just see what we saw? A golfer trying to enter the gate at a golf tournament. Darlington did not return. We know what he did. In a very fast transition, we went from an operation of people there to call a sporting event to a news gathering, a news reporting operation. And then at one point, we became both a half hour after we were on the site. We still didn't know when Scottie Scheffler was going to be processed, bailed out. Was he going to withdraw? Was he going to be sitting in jail? Would he miss the tee time? Oh, wait a minute. We found out he's coming back. So we were basically wearing both hats at the same time. How can we be both a news organization reporting that covers Scottie Scheffler's story while at the same time documenting the golf tournament that's now underway, where there are a dozen of groups out on the golf course playing? It's still kind of our job to tell people and show what's going on in the PGA. And for about 14 consecutive hours, we were both. He's scheduled to be arraigned Tuesday morning in Louisville. It's unclear whether he will appear in court in person. Scheffler's attorney, Steve Romine, told Golf.com the team intends to enter a not guilty plea on all charges. He does not expect a same-day decision from the judge. More likely it will be a matter of days, at which point either the judge will dismiss the charges or will go to trial. Obviously not that quickly. Wischusen said that as of Friday evening, as far as he knew, none of the ESPN crew who witnessed the arrest had been contacted by legal teams from either side. If they do, I would think they would probably go to Jeff first because A, our version of the events are basically identical, and B, he had more information than any of us. He hopped out of the car and actually documented further what was happening and asked some questions and shot the video. My own speculation is that if neither side has contacted any of us, to me, that tells me both sides are going to say this never should have happened. Let's just all agree to let bygones be bygones. Cooler heads prevail. Right now, the mayor said, this case is in the hands of our county attorney and we'll let the legal process play out. So here's what I've heard from reports and insiders saying things. They're talking to people. What they're hearing is that they expect all charges to be dismissed. And basically, the state attorney is not going to press charges and try this case against Scottie Scheffler. And my reaction is, well, duh. If that's the eyewitness report, if the police officer attached himself to the car, if there's no body cam footage, if it's going to be a he said, she said, if Scottie Scheffler was trying to go into a tournament in a chaotic situation and misunderstood what a police officer told him to do, I don't even think he should plead to the not obeying traffic control. Definitely not reckless driving. No shot at an assault. They never proved this case. They would never win this case. And when I watch his lawyer's interview, he seemed pretty confident of that. And Scottie Scheffler is an incredibly nice guy, but for all intents and purposes and press conferences, he's very gracious and kind. He wasn't backing down. He didn't say he made any mistakes. He didn't apologize for hitting a police officer. And I would expect, if you go watch some of Scottie Scheffler's interviews, if he hit a police officer with his car, my guess is he would apologize for it. I didn't hear any of that. Now, maybe he's just not doing it because of his Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. But this is a wild situation that's basically unfolding as we expected it to. A major overreaction that should have been handled with police discretion. Maybe a scolding, maybe a talking to, maybe send him to the back of the line, wait his turn. But no way should criminal charges have been filed. No way should he have been booked and charged with a felony. Because now I would think he's got to get his record expunged if they do that in Kentucky. And is he going to have to show up for arraignment and waste his time for that, for this? In Florida, most of the time for felonies, you do have to show up, and misdemeanors will let you waive your appearance pretty easily. Felonies, sometimes you can too, usually with a written waiver or something like that. I don't know if Kentucky is the same, but this is crazy that this happened. And a lot of you were asking me about it, a lot of interaction on Twitter. So I wanted to come shoot out a video first thing Monday morning. It's Sunday night when I'm recording this after the tournament. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section and hit the like button. If you want me to continue to follow up when I think charges are eventually dismissed. And maybe we'll get some comment from the state attorney or from the mayor or from the police department or something in this case to discuss more. But that's what I expect to happen in this case. Let me know if you agree or disagree. That's all I got. Till next time, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And don't forget to check out the Lawyer You Know podcast with new seasons dropping every quarter. If you have a case you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, The Lawyer You Know.